Will Smith sat alone on the wooden bench, his sunglasses tucked into the collar of his light gray hoodie, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the open expanse of the park. He wasn't dressed to impress, just a casual day jeans, sneakers, hoodie, but he didn't need to be. For him, this was a rare moment of peace, of anonymity, one of those slivers of time where the world didn't tug at his sleeve asking for something. The sounds of kids playing in the distance, a dog barking, the soft whisper of leaves rustling above, it all blended into a calming rhythm that let him breathe a little deeper. He smiled faintly to himself, watching a squirrel dart past his feet and scurry up a nearby tree. He took a sip from his coffee cup, still warm, enjoying the taste as it filled his mouth. The moment was simple, quiet, but that peace was soon disrupted. From the far end of the walkway, heavy footsteps approached, crunching deliberately against the gravel. A tall man in a neon yellow vest and a deep blue uniform rounded the path. The patch on his chest read, "Park Security." He was pale, built like an ex-cop, with a buzz cut and a permanent scowl etched across his face like it had been carved in stone. His eyes locked onto Will from a distance and narrowed instantly, like he'd spotted something he didn't like. He didn't hesitate, didn't slow down, just kept walking until he was standing right in front of Will's bench. Will glanced up at him, not thinking much of it. "Afternoon," he said, calm, polite. The guard didn't respond. Instead, he jabbed a thumb over his shoulder. "You need to leave," he said bluntly. Will blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me." "You heard me," the guard said, louder this time, looking around as if trying to make sure others would hear too. "You can't be here. Move along." Will sat up straighter, not defensive, just confused. "I'm sorry. Is there a problem?" "Yeah, there is," the guard snapped. "We've had complaints." Will frowned slightly. "Complaints about what?" "I've been sitting here drinking coffee." The guard's tone sharpened. "Doesn't matter. You don't belong here. This is a family-friendly park. You're gonna have to go." Will set his cup down slowly on the bench beside him, eyes never leaving the man's face. "Are you saying I don't belong here because I'm black?" The guard stiffened, his jaw clenching, his eyes twitching for the briefest second. "I didn't say that." "But that's what you meant," Will replied, his voice still even, but his chest tightening. The park around them seemed to go quieter, or maybe it was just in his head. He wasn't sure. The breeze felt colder now. "You're making this into something it's not," the guard said, folding his arms, his stance widening. "Then tell me what this is," Will said, standing up now face to face with the man. "I'm a citizen. I'm sitting in a public park, drinking coffee, minding my business, and you come at me like I'm doing something wrong." The guard looked around, scanning for witnesses. His voice dropped slightly, but stayed sharp. "Look, I'm telling you nicely. Leave now before this becomes something else." Will's nostrils flared slightly. His voice was still calm, but steel lay underneath. "You think I'm some random guy you can push out of here? You think I'm gonna just walk away because you said so?" "Don't make this difficult," the guard said. "I will call the cops." "Do it," Will said, now not backing down even an inch. "Please, call them. I'd love to explain to them why a man can't sit on a bench without being harassed." The tension between them stretched tight, visible, almost humming in the air. A couple walked by with a stroller and slowed slightly, sensing something. The guard glanced at them and then back at Will. His face was red now. "You want to be smart? Fine. Let's see what happens." He reached for the walkie-talkie clipped to his shoulder. Will just stood there, watching him. The calm on his face was thinning now, replaced with something colder, older, like 1,000 other moments like this were flashing behind his eyes. Moments of being judged, questioned, singled out, Despite everything, despite the movies, the fame, the legacy, this was still happening. Here, now, just because of the color of his skin. He looked around the park, at the people who now started to look toward them. Some curious, some cautious, and yet no one stepped in. No one said a word. The silence screamed. The guard turned his back, speaking into the device. Will stood still, heart pounding, jaw tight. This wasn't supposed to be happening. Will stood there, frozen for a second, eyes locked on the security guard as the man finished speaking into his walkie-talkie. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Will blinked, trying to process what had just happened. He took a step closer to the guard, still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. "Hold on," he said, voice low but shaking with disbelief. "Did you really just tell me to leave this park for sitting here? What's the real reason, man? You gonna say it to my face?" The guard looked him dead in the eye and, with a coldness that stunned Will to his core, muttered, "Because people like you don't belong here. This isn't your kind of place." Will's heart dropped. "My kind," he repeated, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "You mean black?" The guard didn't say anything for a second. Then he shrugged like it was nothing. "That's right," he said. "We've had trouble before. You people bring the wrong kind of attention. I'm not gonna let this place turn into something it's not." Will's breath caught. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You just said that. You actually said that," he whispered, almost to himself. "You think because I'm black I'm a threat? I'm a problem." His voice started to rise now, the anger bubbling up inside. "Do you even know who I am?" The guard sneered. "I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the damn mayor. Black is black. You don't belong here." Will stepped forward, fists clenched at his sides, but he wasn't going to touch the guy. No, he was better than that. You don't have the right to speak to anyone like that. Especially not here. Especially not to me. The guard's eyes flared. "Oh, I got every right. I work here. My job is to keep things in order." "No," Will shot back. "Your job is to keep people safe, not harass someone for sitting on a bench." "You're making a scene," the guard growled. "You're making this a problem." "I'm making a scene," Will snapped. "You're the one who walked up to me unprovoked, told me to leave, and now you're threatening me?" The guard reached back for his walkie-talkie again. "I already called it in. Police are on their way. They'll deal with you." That was the moment something changed in Will's face. He went pale for a second, like the gravity of the situation just shifted beneath his feet. "You called the cops?" he asked, his voice suddenly quiet, almost small. The guard nodded, smug. "They'll sort this out real quick." Will looked around again. The families in the park were still watching, some whispering to each other, others pretending not to see anything. No one stepped in. No one said a word. Will's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel sweat on the back of his neck. His thoughts raced. He knew how quickly things could go wrong. How easily misunderstandings turned deadly when police were involved. Even for someone like him. Maybe especially for someone like him. "You think I'm afraid of the cops?" he asked, trying to sound brave, but there was a tremble in his tone. "You think I haven't been through worse." "Doesn't matter what you've been through," the guard said. "You're not welcome here, and they'll make sure you leave." Will took a step back. He didn't want to run. He didn't want to give this man the satisfaction. But fear started to settle in his chest. A familiar kind of fear, the kind that doesn't go away just because you're famous or successful or rich. The kind of fear that gets passed down, generation after generation, whispered from father to son. Be careful. Stay calm. Don't give them a reason. He swallowed hard. His mind was spinning. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about every black person who had ever been told they didn't belong. Every kid who got followed in a store. Every man who got pulled over for nothing. Every woman who clutched her purse when she saw someone with dark skin. Will clenched his jaw, trying to steady his breathing. "I'm not leaving," he said, quieter now but firmer. "You can call who you want, but I'm not leaving." "We'll see about that," the guard replied, crossing his arms and planting his feet like he was proud of himself. The two of them stood there in a tense standoff, the park around them buzzing with uncomfortable energy. No one moved. No one dared interrupt. Will could feel every eye on him. He hated that feeling, hated being watched like that, judged without words. He pulled out his phone and started recording. He turned the camera on the guard. "Say it again," he said. "Tell the world what you just told me." The guard's smirk faltered for a second, but then he laughed. "You think a video's gonna save you? Go ahead. Post it. You still won't be welcome here." Will kept recording, his hand shaking slightly, but his voice steady. "This is racism. Right here. Right now. In broad daylight. In a public park. You hear this?" he said, turning the phone slightly to catch the background. "This man told me I don't belong here because I'm black. Because I'm sitting on a bench." The guard didn't flinch. "And I'd say it again." Will stopped recording and lowered his phone. His eyes were glassy now, not with tears exactly, but with the weight of it all pressing down on him. He sat back on the bench slowly, his hands on his knees, breathing heavily. The sirens started faintly in the distance. His stomach turned. He didn't know what kind of cops were coming. Didn't know how this would end. He just knew it was real. It was happening. And he couldn't stop it. The sirens grew louder, slicing through the tense silence of the park as a black and white police SUV turned onto the path leading up to the scene. Will didn't move from the bench. His coffee cup sat untouched beside him, the liquid now cold, forgotten. The guard straightened his posture, arms crossed, lips pursed with smug anticipation. The families nearby stepped further back, the parents clutching their children's hands. Everyone watching closely as the police vehicle came to a stop just feet from where Will sat, and the guard stood like a proud soldier. Two officers stepped out, both in dark blue uniforms, badges catching the light. One was a woman, the other a man. They looked serious, alert. As they approached, their eyes shifted from the security guard to Will, then back to the guard. The female officer squinted slightly, slowing her steps. "Hold up," she said under her breath. Her partner leaned toward her. "Is that?" The recognition dawned instantly. "That's Will Smith," she said aloud, blinking in disbelief. The guard turned his head sharply toward them. "What?" he said, the smugness starting to slip. The male officer approached first, directing his words at Will. "Mr. Smith?" he asked. Will nodded slowly, still seated. "Yeah." "Are you all right?" the female officer asked, concern immediately replacing their initial neutrality. Will nodded again, but his face was tight with stress. "I'm fine, but this man called you on me for sitting in a park. He walked up to me, told me I didn't belong here, and then when I asked why, he said it was because I'm black." Both officers turned their heads toward the security guard with sharp, synchronized precision. The male officer's voice grew firmer. "Is that true?" The guard stammered for a second, taken off guard by the tone. "Well, I mean, look, I didn't say it like that." "How did you say it?" the female officer pressed. "Because Mr. Smith just said you told him he wasn't welcome here because of his race. And that's a serious accusation." "I said," the guard began, sweat forming on his brow. "I said people like him cause trouble sometimes. That's what I meant. People like him," the male officer repeated slowly, like tasting something rotten. "So, black people? No, I mean The guard tried to recover. I didn't mean it like that. It's just, we've had issues before, and I was just doing my job. Your job, the woman said, deadpan. Is it part of your job description to remove individuals from a public park because of their skin color? He was causing a scene, the guard said, defensive now, voice rising. He got loud. He started filming me. After you told him he didn't belong, Will added, standing now, keeping his distance, but refusing to stay seated any longer. After you said being black made me a problem. The officers exchanged a glance. The male officer stepped forward. Sir, I'm going to ask you to hand over your security ID. What? The guard blinked, shocked. Why? Because I'm detaining you for questioning, the officer replied calmly. Your actions today appear to be racially motivated, and we're going to need a formal report. You can either cooperate or escalate this further, and I wouldn't recommend the second option. The guard started to protest. But he's black. He doesn't. The word stopped mid-sentence. He realized what he'd said, realized it out loud. Too late. The officers stared at him in disbelief. The female officer shook her head, slowly. You're done, she said. Turn around. You've got to be kidding me, the guard muttered, panic now bleeding through his voice. He's a celebrity. You're taking his side. No, the male officer said, stepping behind the guard and pulling his arms back gently but firmly. We're taking the side of the law, and what you just said, on top of your behavior, constitutes a civil rights violation. Against anyone, famous or not. The sound of the handcuffs clicking into place echoed eerily across the quiet park. Will watched silently, not gloating, not triumphant, just tired. The kind of tired that comes from knowing it could have ended differently. So easily. The female officer looked at Will. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Mr. Smith. We'll file a full report, and he'll be cited. You're free to press charges if you choose. Will nodded slowly. I'll think about it. As the officers led the security guard toward the patrol car, a few people nearby clapped. Not many, just a few, hesitant, unsure. Will didn't acknowledge them. He didn't want applause. He didn't want validation. He just wanted to sit in a damn park. The back door of the cruiser opened, and the guard was ushered in. The officer slammed it shut behind him. Will exhaled deeply. What's going to happen to him? He asked quietly. The female officer turned back. At the very least, he'll be dismissed. He'll face disciplinary action and a hefty civil fine. His license might be revoked. He's not fit to be in any position of authority. Will nodded. Good. Do you want to ride, sir? She offered. No, he said. I just want to sit here. A little longer. Of course, she said gently. The patrol car drove off. Sirens off now, just the engine humming quietly into the distance. Will sat back down on the bench, picked up his cold coffee, and stared into the trees. The sun was lower now, casting orange light through the branches. He thought about the irony of it all. He wasn't trying to be a symbol. He wasn't trying to make a stand. He just wanted a moment to himself. But that moment had turned into something bigger, something heavier. He looked at his phone, at the recording he'd made. Still there, still saved. Evidence. Truth. He could post it, let the world see. Or he could keep it, just for himself.